y'all. We back.
Welcome back to the Test Run Podcast. We are talking playoff basketball today.
Man.
What to say about playoff basketball? Have you been watching a lot of the games or what?
Some. I saw your boy Dame cook yesterday. He was cooking your boy Austin Rivers.
Neither of those are my. Actually, Dame is my boy, my favorite point guard in the league.
Austin Rivers, your favorite NBA coach's son's player. That's your guy.
I'll take Nate McMillan's son over him.
I don't even know who that is.
Jamal McMillan. No,
Archie?
I don't know.
Archie McMillan.
Archie Bradley.
I know. I think he played though for ASU, right?
Yeah. But no, point being, I haven't really been watching any. I saw the Suns Lakers game 1, the end of that game. LeBron, Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse.
I can't. I mean, he's a great human being. If I seen him at a barbershop or something, I'd say what's up. But within those lines, I just can't stand the way he's entitled. That's a good way to put it. When you anoint yourself the chosen one, and don't want responsibility for losses or when things, when you face adversity, it's never your fault. I can't believe the theatrics that he's been still doing this late in his career.
I was about to say, you can't believe that.
I can't believe that someone who bills himself at 6'8", 260, a grown-ass man, is going to flop like a fish when his good friend Chris Paul barely tugs on his arm. And I'm not saying there might not have been a little bit of pain. It's funny, I was just hooping with my boy Mitch, and he's actually dislocated his shoulder, from basketball situations. And last night he went up for a rebound and got caught, and his shoulder popped back in. But he was, in noticeable pain. It hurt. And again, he's dislocated his shoulder before, so it's kind of a roll in your ankle situation. It can, it kind of keeps happening, the joint. But he didn't wither on the ground. He didn't take a knee. He didn't do anything to bring more spectacle to himself. He said,
change the narrative.
Yeah, he said, Quest, check in for me. I said, all right, are you good? He's like, yeah, like it's just. So then I said, what's the score? He said, my boy Bye-Week says 13-12. I was like, all right, cool. We have the ball. I'm at half court. Gives me the rock, cash. Oh shit, that's game. My bad. So anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. But on my GOY shit. But when you're a grown ass man and your shoulder hurts, LeBron straight up. I think I see this on the Barstool Pardon My Take or whatever podcast, where they said like there was that little scuffle. And I know I'm retreading game 1 of Suns Lakers right now, but when Trez goes and trucks Cameron Payne or whatever his name is, and then grabs him like a little kid, and LeBron realizes, spotlight's not on me. My shoulder hurts because my good friend Chris Paul just tugged on it a little bit, and I drew a foul. He had to go take a knee at the scuffle starting point. So, all eyes were at that point. What are we doing, LeBron? What are we doing? I mean, you and Luka need to look yourselves in the mirror at night. And I'm not saying you can't be in pain. Right before this podcast hopped on, I seen Twitter, Anthony Davis kicked Jay Crowder in the nutsack. Did you see that? He drew a foul, jumped up, and then clapped him right in the nutcracker.
Anthony Davis did that to Jay Crowder?
To Jay Crowder. And Crowder's he's just standing there because he got caught, handing the cookie jar. And then Anthony Davis just does his best Draymond Green impression. Jay Crowder withered on the ground for a little bit, and rightfully so. That hurts. I've had that happen. That hurts. But when you get your shoulder tugged on, you're 6'8", 260 against a 6-foot peanut. Come on, man. What are we doing? See, I'm riled up. Now you got me riled up.
Now you are.
Anyway.
I mean,
what's the narrative?
So I don't know the narrative yet. of as far as what we were talking about offline. And I do believe there's a narrative here where LeBron, they say he loses every first game. Trying to find out what that is. I still have yet to figure it out, but that'll come to me eventually. But no, to add on to your point, I mean, the Drake Crowder thing, I mean, I don't really care too much about that because he's not LeBron James. How you said he didn't anoint himself to be the chosen one. So I think if anyone else hurts, flops, or whatnot, that I don't really care about that. I do care when LeBron does it. I mean, that to me, I don't get how you said he could claim to be a grown man and like strong and all this and that, and zero dark 40 or whatever he says. I just don't get it. I don't understand the whole flopping thing. I guess it's to make a point for something. This would go back to I think the first loss to the first or second loss to the Golden State Warriors. I can't remember which championship it was, but he walked out with a cast on his hand. And like I said, there's always a narrative around, I think, everything LeBron does. I've yet to figure out why. Maybe someone out there knows, but there's always a narrative damn near everything he does if you look at it. I truly believe he was trying to make his case for MVP. I don't think he was really hurt as far as the ankle goes. I think maybe he might have tweaked it again. I don't think he was in pain to where he couldn't play. After he came back from his 1 month hiatus. I do think there's always I think he always tries to make his push for MVP. I think that narrative for him, I think he didn't want to have to play in, but I think that makes a better case for him. Like, oh, if he's the lower seed and he wins a championship or takes them to the finals, that's going to be another narrative that he's trying to run for Jordan. That GOAT conversation. I said, I think me and you are both on the same page. He's not the GOAT in our book. There's no way he could catch up to Michael at this point. I mean, I think I don't know. I got really nothing else to say. I think this series. I do think the Lakers are gonna win the series. But I think he get another tough 2 rounds. I don't think they'll win. I don't think they'll get out. Maybe I don't think they're coming out the West, but they do get another tougher 2 rounds. I do think they'll beat the Suns. I just don't think they're ready yet. I was watching right now, honestly. Reggie Miller was like, their leadership is Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. I'm like, Jay Crowder? Chris Paul, I understand. Like I said, if you watched our other podcast, you can see I've always made a point to say that Chris Paul deserves MVP this year. But Jay Crowder, he's been in the league. He's probably one of the oldest guys on the team, but I don't really see him as a leader for this team. I think if the Suns do need someone, they're missing that one other leader. But that's all I got on this shit.
Well, I think let me jump in here for a second. I think Glass, aka Chris Paul, turns to in toilet paper glass when playoffs start. Unfortunately, his body somehow he actually.
Oh, okay. I was so confused. I didn't know where you're trying to go, but I mean, I think so too. I think like I said, I do think that too, but that's why I think he's never going to be the one on a team. I think he's always going to be the 2 or 3. Like the time he made it to the Western Conference Finals, it was with James Harden, and then he got hurt. And we've talked about that prior, but yeah, I just think that Chris Paul is definitely a 1, a 2, maybe a 3 on a championship team. But the regular season, obviously, he's able to push them there. So that's why I say he deserved the MVP, because MVP obviously goes through the regular season.
It just sucks that he gets injured in like the most inopportune times in the playoffs when it matters most. But yeah,
but I also think that comes to him just being the floor general, the overall better player at that moment. I've seen Devin Booker being battle tested for the playoffs right now because this is his first time.
Killing.
Yeah.
Proving you wrong.
He had 34 last game, but to me that doesn't say much. I mean, it just is what it is. I still don't think he's Kobe as much as I want to give him that, but yeah.
He's doing that to prove specifically you wrong. He listens to the pod.
We got to put this into fruition. I hope he does. Maybe I'm the motivation he needs.
I think well, and so when I was watching it, he was because I'm sure a lot of our viewers would be interested in this Lakers Suns matchup more than the other playoff
Anything
series.
else?
But I'm saying so Devin Booker was getting a double team thrown at him apparently all game. Like I said, I didn't watch the entire game. I watched kind of near the end, and I saw them from the folks that watched the game. They tell me that he was getting pushed a double team all game, and he was kind of deferring out of the double team, kicking it, and then he started to kind of take over in the second half. And in this era of 5-out basketball, if you do throw an automatic double team at like a Devin Booker, like I watched Joe Johnson for all those years, and people were shading the double team his way every time he got it in that little midi post. So similarly, Devin Booker, if he makes the correct play out of it, I mean, Jay Crowder or somebody is going to have a wide open three in the corner if they just move the ball. So basketball has really just turned into a spread out 3-point shooting game. And the Lakers, I think they're going to go as far as Anthony Davis takes them. I think he's the most important player for them. I think he's the best player on the Lakers personally. I think, again, he got outplayed in game 1 against DeAndre Ayton.
I got to disagree with that.
You think LeBron's better than Anthony Davis?
I would say so. And you know how we feel about this. The only reason I say that is because he keeps getting hurt. Like healthy, but how rare is that when he's healthy? He was only healthy, if you really think about it, last year, like out of his whole career. And that was due to a pandemic. If there wasn't a pandemic, I guarantee he would have been hurt again.
Well, possibly, but so durability is, I mean, being available is key, but he's a better player than LeBron James. When they're on the court, there's no excuse for him just settling for a midi jumper and then shooting like 5 for 14 or whatever. I think he is the engine that needs to make the Lakers go. And if he doesn't have it that night, they don't win, period.
Nah,
I don't think LeBron can carry a team that was designed specifically for him at this point in his career. Now, granted, he's 30-something years old. So the fact that we're even talking about LeBron in this instant, I mean, but he touches every play.
No, yeah. And like, I get that. I just don't think he's the better player. I mean, his injuries, that does play a factor. Like when Tracy McGrady was with the Rockets, Yao Ming was the better player because Tracy kept getting hurt. I mean, Yao Ming was the one actually carrying the team. The last 2 seasons of Tracy was there.
Well, I think that's apples and oranges a little bit. I'm saying,
it is. I'm just saying,
Anthony Davis is literally hurt right this moment in the series, and if LeBron's like 100% and Anthony Davis is 40%, then sure, LeBron's better. But I don't know if Anthony Davis is 40% or 50%. Like, he can't get outplayed by DeAndre Ayton like he did, and then to think they have a chance. Like, if he plays good, they potentially win that game. But he played bad. And like I said, I don't think LeBron is at this stage in his career. He's a facilitator for the whole team, and he needs a dude who can go get you 30.
I'm not saying he does. I mean, he's proven he's needed that his whole career. So that's that. Right. To me, that doesn't really say much, because when he was with Cleveland the first go around, he had no one that could do that. Until he went to Miami, that's when you start seeing he needed someone who can give him 30 on their own. But I don't know. I just because of the injury stuff, I just can't give that to Anthony Davis. And I'm still not really saying LeBron. I mean, the only reason I'm saying LeBron's probably the better player, I mean, because I'm not going to say it's Caldwell Pope or anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
It's a moot point at the end of the day.
Yeah. So like if he didn't get hurt so much, I think he'd have to me, I'd say that because last year I was saying that because he was clearly not hurt the whole season. He was perfectly fine. But this year just proved his past, seasons that he's just injury prone. He gets hurt too easy. Like I said, I don't know if you saw, I think we talked about it on the last one where he backed up and he almost had to get out the game again because he turned his ankle for just walking back.
That was like a month ago though, was it not?
But that's what I'm saying. Like that just, to me, that seems injury prone. And then they come out and say he had a back spasm. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But yeah, but either way, I just don't see Anthony Davis being the the best player on this team. I don't think he will ever be the best player on a team.
Well, I
was with New Orleans, but that's just me.
I think it's not about him being like in the moment. Like he is when if he's healthy, which is your point. If he can't stay healthy, but if he's healthy, he's arguably besides Kevin Durant, maybe 2 or 3 other players, the best player in basketball if he's healthy. And I still think
I'll give him a top 6. I don't know about.
I'll give him top 6, but LeBron's not in that conversation. Like
I don't think so either. But I'm just saying LeBron's durability, to me, at least at this point, even with Anthony Davis there right now, it just seems like to me, I'm just gonna give him that knock just because, like I said, Anthony Davis, I do believe he was probably playing a little hurt last game. As much as we want to say no, there was probably something there that was probably nagging him for him to get only 13 points.
Well, and that's why I'm saying he just got outplayed and by DeAndre Ayton, who I think missed like 1 shot. And it's harder to shoot over Ayton, who's 7 foot with a long wingspan, when he's just settling for that little midi jumper that's not falling. That's like a rhythm shot when you hit a few. So I don't know if it's the Lakers to put him in a better situation. Would that go to
settling though too?
I'm sorry.
Would that also go to him just settling because something might be wrong? I don't know. I'm at this
maybe, but I mean that's speculation that he's hurt or that he's not 100%, and maybe he isn't. But I still think like he's suiting up. This is the playoffs. I know him and LeBron have sort of been banged up this season. But I was talking to some, like I said, most of my friends are either Laker or Suns fans, ironically. And
they just so happen to
this is a huge series for them. And they're talking about like what the Lakers need to do to adjust. And I think Anthony Davis just needs to play better. But then I said, what do you think those adjustments should be? And whether that, I don't know if it's scheme specific, but just rotational specific, like when the substitution. I think a lot of people had a problem with Luke Walton, the way he played those young guns with Lonzo and all them, how he would substitute dudes out or have a lineup on the floor in late game situations that fans didn't like. And so it's interesting to hear people talk about kind of, not necessarily the scheme, because the scheme is now pick and roll, get a switch, let your best player basically ISO an opposing defender that doesn't match up with you. That's literally what the game is now, 5 out. So the coach's whole job now is to just make sure his team's fresh, to not piss off his star player and fucking. So I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see. I think, like I said, most of our viewers are probably more interested in this series than any others. But regardless, the Nets are going to win the whole thing, and I think it's a point.
Yeah, that is silly. I haven't even watched it yet, and I've just been watching the highlights, and it just looks silly.
It's what it is, just to touch on it. It's you have Kevin Durant, in my opinion, the best scorer in basketball. You have Kyrie Irving, maybe the best ISO scoring point guard in basketball. Then you have James Harden, the best, most manipulative ISO scorer.
You could say 1 or 2 for Kyrie, because he's not the one. He's not the one when James is on it. And
regardless, one of the best. So you have 3 of the best ISO scoring or playmaking players in basketball in a 5-out situation with Blake Griffin, who apparently can dunk again, like people were sleeping. And then you got, good role players around them. In playoff basketball, when the game slows down and you need to get points in the half court setting, having literally the 3 best ISO players in basketball, they'll never, unless all 3 of them are completely off, I don't see them, or the other team has so much firepower and offense, just like a complete mismatch disadvantage or something. I just don't see the Nets losing the game, because when I turned the game on against the Celtics a little bit, and I know it was a blowout, but like Kevin Durant was talking to somebody in the front row, and he just gets the ball, comes down, just does a little shimmy midi pull up, hits it, and I'm just like, it's so effortless for these guys in this era of basketball to just play ISO that James Harden just clack 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 goes into Evan Fournier and draws a foul. I had to turn it off. I was like, this is ridiculous. And it didn't even feel like Brooklyn embraced, like, I mean, obviously, like they embrace the team. Like, it doesn't feel like the crowd's involved. It's just like, oh, we were just given this super team that's going to win the championship. Like, there's no fandom, I feel like, equated to this team. It was just kind of pre-assembled, and then here's the championship. And it doesn't feel as good as if like if the Suns win it, people in Phoenix, even though there's a lot of fair weather fans out there, it's going to be kind of bananas, because it's like they haven't been to the playoffs in like 10 years. Like, it would be a really cool thing for the culture of the city. But Brooklyn don't give a fuck about James Harden and them. Like, they just want a team that wins, and they don't care who it is. Like, it's whack.
Well, I was just looking up right now. So I don't even know who their leading scorer on their team is, because both Kyrie and Kevin Durant are both averaging 26.9 points a game.
Really?
Yeah, and James Harden's averaging 24.8. That right there alone is almost fucking 75 points a game. That's just their top three. So in order for you to beat them, like, granted, yeah, they lost some games together. And that's, I think, coming with them just trying to figure out a rhythm and whatnot with each other. But it seems like in order to beat them, you have to have at least 4 guys in 20 points a game. Somewhere around there. Like, you have to have somewhere there, because they're already putting up 75, those 3. And say you get an extra 10, 15 from Blake or 10, 15 from Green.
Or from Shamet or Harris or
like, no, exactly. Like, it's unfair if they don't win. Like I said in previous pods, it's definitely going to be a bust. And it's going to be a shit of a season for them to put that much talent together and not win effortlessly. But then again, Kevin Durant, his only championships he's ever won are effortlessly. So,
that's what I was thinking. When I was thinking of, like, oh man, they got the 3 best ISO players. I'm like, you know what? But then I see Kevin Durant. He was getting into it with Evan Fournier. Like, they called some phantom call, and Evan Fournier was like, what are you talking about? And then Kevin Durant said something slick. He walked in front of him. He said something slick. Evan Fournier is like, don't talk to me like that. I don't talk to you like that, bitch. And then he, like, starts saying something back to him. And I'm like, oh yeah, Kevin Durant's a bitch because he's chasing rings. He's a little snake who can't beat the best, so he has to join the best. So I'm like, you know what? I don't give a fuck about this championship. I remember that. I was like, this is stupid. Why am I watching this? The Celtics are garbage. Like, they completely collapsed. And the Nets just literally just play iso ball with 3 of the best scorers. And it's a moot point. And like you said, I don't know what it's going to take to beat them, because I think Grant Hill said they've only played a collective 200 minutes together total the whole season. So being on the floor at the same time. So now that they're all on the floor, who knows if they were really injured or not as well. But like, I don't see how they lose, especially like when it's defensively. Like, they were real bad, but unless the other team can just straight up, hang with them offensively, like no one like can score on them at a high clip. Like, I just
at all, yeah.
There's no chance for people to. I'd still like to see my boy Kawhi get a ring, but I don't see it. I don't know if I see it happening against these Nets in this era. This era just drives me crazy, and you know that.
Oh yeah. Another quick. I did watch yesterday the Heat in the Milwaukee game. I'm trying to tell y'all, this bubble don't mean shit. Like, they're getting their ass whooped, and yeah, you could say maybe the addition of Drew Holiday helped them, but they're already a Eastern Conference Finals, semifinals contender already. So that, I don't think that changes much for me looking at on the Bucks. But the Heat, they got this same exact team except for Jay Crowder. And I guess if you want to make a point, look, you can say, look at the Suns. Jay Crowder is helping them out. I don't think so. I still think it's Chris Paul. But no, I think Jay Crowder fit that Miami team more than he does this Suns team. But I don't know. I try to tell y'all that bubble don't mean shit. They're out there getting their ass handed. So granted, they still got 2 more games to play before it's over. But yeah, it's just, I think the Heat are gonna lose. I think Jimmy Butler should probably get paid. Yeah, I think he's deserving him to get paid, but they're not gonna make the finals again.
I think it was a perfect storm. I think they caught fire. You see that in a lot of different sports. A team kind of catches fire at the end of the season or in the playoffs, which is one of the reasons why there's a whole debate on, is it harder to win a championship in the NFL or the NBA? And I think it is the NFL by a large margin. Sure.
I don't think anyone would disagree with you.
Kendrick Perkins would. He's the one who brought it
up. But he don't. I can't really fuck. I don't really fuck Kendrick Perkins.
But so regardless, if the Heat caught fire last year in the bubble and it was a perfect storm for them to catch fire, like you said, you've been calling it this whole time. It wasn't necessarily sustainable. It might have been flash in the pan. And then Jay Crowder, to his credit, I will say he's a good defensive player.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah, he's
Brings a
tough. Don't
nice
get me wrong.
presence. Yeah. And so I
Yeah.
think leadership just in the way he plays, if you do take a good defender off a team, it's gonna hurt that team. And so, Drew Holiday, like I think the Bucks are a better team in general, but at the
Oh
same
no,
time,
yeah, same.
the Heat are not. They had no chance.
Oh, yeah. Same with the Celtics. Like, where did that shit go to hell?
Dude,
Like,
they are bad. They're bad. Like,
yeah.
I mean, and I think the whole Kyrie thing, they started to okay, they saw their ceiling. The whole Isaiah Thomas after that happened. Then they went and got Kyrie. That fell apart.
I think we're seeing something that we're also seeing something that's not being said. It could be ego. I guarantee, look at Jason Tatum is out here doing his thing, just like Jaylen Brown. But I guarantee you there's ego somewhere on this team.
Well, and I thought Kemba Kemba was going to be good. Marcus Smart is one of the most annoying players for me to watch, not because he's scrappy. I like his defensive intensity, but he's so streaky. Just he
has ego. I think he has probably the biggest ego on that team, and he's not afraid to say what he wants. I guarantee you that's probably throwing all that threw all this chemistry off that they had coming into this season off. I guarantee you, whatever happened last year that no one keeps seeming to mention again, that incident that they had in the locker room, I guarantee you that's playing into this season still.
Well, and we've all played, those of you who hooped, I guess even at the gym, we've all played with that dude who's like a try hard, tough, like blue collar guy on defense who doesn't like he makes his bones by locking dudes up and being overly aggressive. And those guys usually have big personalities and junkyard.
Because they're probably most likely football players at a point too.
I mean, and Marcus Smart looks like a football player. I'll be honest. He looks like
he's like 6'4", 222, I think.
Like could be, I don't know what position he would play, but point being, he has that junkyard ego. Like,
oh yeah,
it's he's tougher than the guy next to him, and I think you want that on your team, and it's completely fine when you're winning. But those kinds of personalities can kind of clash. I mean, Jason Tatum is like the complete opposite. That dude just kind of, he's kind of, and Jaylen Brown, same thing. That dude looks kind of disengaged and he just keeps his mouth shut. Kemba is like that dude, but I thought Kemba was going to mesh better than Kyrie did. And it looked like, I thought, that's a nice plug and play. You don't really get a huge dip off. I mean, because he's an all-star as well, but they don't really have a big man. I think Tatum and Jaylen Brown are good players. And obviously you want to hitch your wagon to a good young ascending wing scorer like Tatum or Brown. But I don't think, sort of like Embiid, Ben Simmons, you can't just take two good players who even are friends and just make it work. If my opinion, now maybe the Sixers win the whole thing this year, which I don't think will happen, and prove me wrong, but Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on the same team, like I think that needs to be what's shaken up. Remember they had Gordon Hayward as well. Those two guys aren't getting them over the hump. So you got to choose one and somehow move forward because they've just been stuck in that mediocrity for a minute now. I feel like it's been like 4 or 5 years, that maybe less. I don't know, but it's,
I'd say 2.
Yeah, there's no chance for them to get over the hump, and now they're completely starting to fall out. Like, yeah, they'll make the playoffs in the East, but what is that? What's the point of that? You know what I mean? Like,
no, for sure.
So,
I don't know if we want to touch on the Kwame Brown situation a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, Kwame, we could touch on that real quick to end the pod. Those of you who don't know, Kwame Brown is in a battle for redemption, putting respect on his name. One of my favorite
number
players.
1 overall pick. Wait, for real?
Well, I used to kill with him in 2K. Like I would give people 60, 80 online with Kwame. And I've always liked him. I went against the grain. And I think situation did him in more than anything. He didn't ask to be picked number 1.
No, he didn't. And who are you going to take in that draft? Like,
right.
Like if you want to make a claim, the best player in that draft you could probably say is Paul Gasol. But even then, it took him like 6 years to even get anywhere near recognitionable when he played with Memphis.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think Kwame is. I think he's been waiting in the chamber for like shit to pop off, and I like the
Oh, for
fact that
sure.
in this era with podcasts and such, we can see that like uncensored, unfiltered version of these NBA players that we looked up to, or like you just get the coach speak, you know, we played a good game, and I have a lot of respect for them, blah. But no, now you're saying, motherfucker, step to me. Let's go to Portland or whatever. What did he say? He was like, mutual combat, Stephen A. Like he's going in
And
on these.
I don't think Matt Barnes, maybe Steven Jackson, I don't know, but I know Matt Barnes does not want to fight Kwame Brown. As much as they want to talk shit about him, Kwame Brown's big. Like he's 7'1", 7 foot.
7 foot dude, 7 foot,
probably 300 pounds, maybe even 280. He didn't look like he's out of shape as far as like,
right.
You know what I'm saying, just living regular life. And he's from the South. He's from country strong, so I'm pretty sure. And he's a former number one pick out of high school. That says something. Well, and like another point that he was making is that he did play 12 years in the league. So how is he a bust? And he was able to, perform. Generate some wealth for his family, which is true. I mean, I guess that's really what it comes down to at the end of it. When you do, when you come from nothing and you build yourself up to something. And I've never really thought about it that way until obviously he brought it up, because of me, I've always looked at it in his position as a basketball standpoint. Yeah, you're number one overall pick. So yeah, and how we talk, we obviously you need to bring something to the table if you're going to be chosen as the number one overall pick. Granted, no one, you don't choose to be this, but you are picked to that. And so you figure, well, maybe that this player could definitely amount to something. And he even said, I guess, they wanted to trade him to Chicago for Elton Brand, but that deal didn't end up happening. And then him having to play with, two of, probably the most competitive people in the world or in history, in Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. I mean, that doesn't help, especially starting with the number one, who we claim to be the GOAT for us. To have that competitive edge and just do whatever he can to push you. A lot of people are making points like he's a 17, 18-year-old kid. He's not a 25, 26-year-old man that can take that kind of verbal abuse, where he's never had anyone play psychological games with him like that. Like he came out of high school and just, he was like a deer with in the headlights.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. And looking at it now, I could see that. Hell, at the time when he got drafted, I was fucking 10, 11 years old. So, you don't think about those kind of aspects that happen to an 18-year-old kid compared to the greatest player of all time at 40 years old, who still has that competitive edge. That could probably fuck with you really bad. And, the shit, whatever Jordan, if we saw the documentary, what he said to Scott Burrell and how he punched Steve Kerr, just how he kind of was, but he was competitive and he wanted to see how competitive you were to come along with this ride he was going on.
Right.
And I think this was also a test to Jordan's leadership, that, he's literally a child at that age, and especially coming to, at that time, a grown men's league. If he was drafted in today's age at number one, I think it'd be totally different. His career probably would have panned out way better than what we think. I'm not saying he would have been a shooter, but he'd probably be somewhere like DeAndre Ayton, in the sense that he's big, athletic, and he could just, I'm pretty sure he was more skilled than Dwight Howard. It just never panned out for him. As like I said, he probably was already burned mentally when he got to LA.
Well, and also he joined the LA years where, it was after Shaq and they didn't have all the pieces.
And people wanted Shaq. They didn't want Brown. They wanted a Shaq-like player.
And also, so now you're actually, that taste is still in fans' mouths. So like they had the best center of all time, and now they're going to the biggest bust of all time. Like it was so current for them to just be able to pile that on. And like you said, playing with two of the most competitive players of all time, who their leadership styles, in my opinion, that's the wrong way to go about it. It's their way or the highway. And he's young. I bet you also too, coming out of high school, he was probably given a lot of, it's like, yo, here's the keys. Like, Kwame, you're the best. You know what I mean? You're the number one pick. You're going pro out of high school. So he probably had some type of ego too. Gets to the league, it's shell shocked, like, oh shit, this is, maybe he's not prepared for this. And then to get kind of thrown into the fire like that in the situations that he was in, it was again sort of a perfect storm of a bad situation for him specifically. And that's why me and you talk about this all the time, about how it's situation over talent. You switch Kwame on some other team where he doesn't have the same situation. And are we saying he's a world beater, going to be top 10 of all time? No. But it's like how he did carve out a career for himself on better teams later in his career and whatnot. I think it's a testament to, like you said, at the end of the day, he is putting food on the table for his family. And he doesn't give a fuck what we say, what Matt Barnes says. Like, I mean,
or Stephen A. Like, I really want Stephen A. come back at it, but he hasn't. Because Stephen A. has obviously been the biggest critic, I think, on Kwame Brown. But I mean, when we start looking at the overall, which I'm surprised Stephen A. never put that into perspective, playing with Michael Jordan, being 18 at that time, like, Kobe Bryant was already a different player at 18. Like, he already came in mentally. He wanted to play against Michael. He kind of was, like, we say he's cut from that same cloth.
Mm-hmm.
The same with Kevin Garnett. Like, he was already super competitive. I mean, I don't think anyone's got that. Hell, I don't even think I did. Like, just looking at it, but thinking back then, like, he's never had that personality where he's always fired up or ready to go or shit like that. Like, Tracy McGrady didn't seem like that, but he had the demeanor like he's ready.
And he had the talent to
exactly.
And that's the thing too, is confidence is a real thing as well.
Oh no, for sure.
Maybe Kwame lost a lot. He didn't have big hands. So like the first time he drops a little dump off pass from Michael and he's told he's a complete bitch, that can't help with it. Like, some people like, oh, get fired up, like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. Maybe he like makes another mistake. You know what I mean? I know for me, I thrive more on positive reinforcement, affirmation. And so when you tell me like, you're horrible, this and that, I play worse. And so when I have coaches who understand that, and then, like, hey, I know you messed up, I'll play better. When I hit a shot, tell me like, say good shot. But some coaches, some management, some players, they don't understand how to, finesse certain personalities, and it's just square peg round hole. And I think not LeBron. LeBron's not in this conversation. Michael and Kobe, it was their way or the highway, and I guess rightfully so, in the sense that they're gonna do what they need to do, and they're not gonna let you down. But it's stupid to assume that everyone is like you, especially in a management situation with Michael. That's why Magic Johnson, same thing. Like, you can't expect dudes to train as hard as you did, or put in the work that you did, or respond in certain adversity situations that's how you would respond. It's management and coaching and leadership is different when you can't. I mean, it's different than just doing the job yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so when you got this young kid coming in, so again, I think everything that's happened, I don't know if it's still popping off with Kwame right now, but I think it's a lot of pent up frustration. All he's heard is shit talking his whole career. Even when he did carve out that niche like later in his career. It's just how much of a bust he is. And I think Anthony Bennett, I don't even know if that's his real name, he's a bigger bust. So like, we need to throw some respect on Kwame's name.
Like that's a real bust. Like, that guy he didn't get his first bucket till what, like 8-9 games in the league.
Like, he didn't ask to be number one either, but he clearly was not. He played like a second round pick. Like, he should have made the NBA. He had a good college career, but what a bust.
Like literally a trash. Like, even if he stayed in college, I think another 2-3 years, I think he'd been the same player. But yeah, because he already had the built and the girth to be in the NBA. He was just trash.
Well, and also too, like, the role you play. If he would have been a second round pick to the Spurs, and maybe they mold him into a nice little niche for their organization, maybe his career is different. But when he's given the keys as number one pick and he doesn't have that kind of arsenal to like carry a franchise, like, then he's gonna flame out. Like, I mean, he might have had the tools pre-draft, or like, I don't know, but like Nerlens Noel is a super bust too. Like, there's a bunch of big men, top of drafts, injuries or non-injuries that, it just doesn't kind of work out. And, situationally is, it's all about situation.
And like, why don't we talk about Kenyon Martin?
He was number 1 pick.
And like, why isn't he considered a bust? Like, you know what I'm saying?
And the reason, which is a good question, is because he went to the playoffs with some different teams. Like, that's a team accomplishment.
Like,
that's not
New Jersey was already nice without him.
And then with Jason Kidd and Richard Jefferson, they were a powerhouse.
When they went to the finals without him, and with him twice, you could take him off that team. I think they still would make it to the finals.
Well, I think Kenyon Martin's good, but for the sake of the argument, like
he's not the same kind of career
because of he went to the finals, because he was in the playoffs all the time. Right, but that's situation. That's team. You know what I mean?
Exactly. No, for sure. Like, say Kwame Brown's in that situation.
Right.
Totally different conversation about him. But I'm needing to hear that. Like the same real quick, and with Markelle Fultz, I don't think he was number 1 pick worthy, maybe top 5 at the time. And I do think that whoever decided to change his shooting form in Philly they should be fired, because the kid was nice at Washington. He's averaged 20, 22 a game. Then he comes in summer league, averages, I think, 17, 18 a game, and he's shooting fine. And then all of a sudden during training camp, they got to switch his shot up.
I heard there was an injury behind the closed doors, and they had to switch it because of that.
Maybe. I mean, that he obviously has injury now, because now that has came out. But I mean,
but his jumper looked nice at Washington. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm curious what injury had happened for him to like literally switch his whole mechanics. Like, was his shoulder that bad? Or was like any of this that bad to where they had like, okay, we got to fix all this shit from scratch?
Right.
I've never heard of it besides Alonzo and him now. If you really look at it, I can't think of anyone in history that really had a shoulder injury. Like, Dwayne Wade's had tons of shoulder injuries, but his shooting form is still fine.
Unless it hurts for him to set the ball here, I don't know why someone would change your shot to be at your chin.
No, and completely change it. Like, it's not like he had bad hitches after hitches. Like, it changed like 7 or 8 times. Like, if you look at like the film going forward, it's bad. Like, even now, like, he still shoots with a pretty bad hitch.
I mean, he had a high ceiling, and now I think, or he had a high floor just for how like long he was, pretty athletic, and he had a high ceiling. Now he just has sort of a floor. Like, I don't think he's like a Michael Carter Williams. Just he'll be a swingman.
Another bust if we really want to talk about it, but
right.
That's for another pod.
yeah. But so I guess people are enjoying playoff basketball right now. I'll try to watch another game or two, which I do enjoy watching playoff basketball more than regular season. It matters, and the reffing is a little less shitty. They let them play a little bit. I guess the pace is probably why I don't mind it as much, because it's more half court. And but at the same time, I'm losing the love of the current game. And I don't know how you feel about that, but
we didn't fall in love with the current game.
Right. But it's literally unwatchable at this point. I don't enjoy watching the amount of threes, the amount of ISO, the amount of phony calls, the bitching, the moaning, the groaning. I just feel like I can't be a part of it. I can't do it.
I get it. But yeah, we'll watch the playoffs as much as we can, and we'll keep on running it up.
Keep on test running it.
But all right, y'all, comment, like, subscribe, all that good shit. That's good of a job we're doing.
Or how shitty of LeBron's bitching we're doing, because all he does is whine. Shout out LeBron if you're listening.
Chris Paul for MVP.
I want to say Devin Booker, but pretty good player.
He's not MVP.